It's Kevin Keatsman Uncanceled on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Kansas City. Welcome to Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. I'm Kevin Keatsman, your humble host on this beautiful Thursday. We're looking at 82 and sunny this afternoon. A little breezy, maybe some high clouds. Enjoying our springtime, late springtime. Summer not too far away. Memorial Day next weekend. And so many things going on, not just in our area, but around the world. It is almost impossible to keep track of them all. That's why you listen to KCMO Talk Radio, and we are pleased that you are. It is a growing audience. Continue to tell your friends what you're hearing here with the outstanding programming that is on really all day long. And we appreciate having you. We've got a fine show lined up today. We'll spend a little bit of time talking about the Chiefs' schedule, although I think it's a lot of times a little overdone. We knew who they were going to play this year and where, with the exception of the Chargers that will be in Brazil. But it's all just about the dates, the times, the networks, and things like that, but it draws an awful lot of attention. President Trump is in Qatar. He is raking in more dollars for the United States. He's well over $2 trillion in business deals that he's done, and he's met the troops at an air base there in Qatar, where apparently the Qataris? Sounds like a video game, doesn't it? The Qataris are kicking in $10 billion to reinforce our base in Qatar. It's Qatar. I heard the Emir say it yesterday. It's Qatar. It's not Qatar. I don't know who says that, but it's Qatar. I heard the man say it himself. Trump also announced to the troops there's going to be pay raises. We'll talk about that coming up. Tesla, Elon Musk and his outfit pressing their thumb on the folks in DeSoto to get that Panasonic battery plant done. Let's go. Get this thing up and running. We'll talk about that coming up in the next half hour, and some tasty information from former Royals general manager Dayton Moore, not about his political future, but about his past as Royals GM that I think Mark is going to find interesting if he hasn't already heard it. And the Missouri football team is on a very conservative Christian ministry this summer. Eli Drinkwitz, members of his staff, and up to 60 people from the University of Missouri are traveling abroad in a Christian ministry. That is worthy of discussion on this show, and we'll do that a little bit later toward the end. But we start today with the story in Missouri of how many times can you tell the sports teams you don't want them before they say they don't want to be there. I don't have the answer to that. I heard Mayor Q today on with Pete Mundo in an outstanding interview where he sounded about 100 times better than last week, where crime and controversy and all these things sounded like they were really weighing on his shoulders. Today he was optimistic, upbeat, sounded terrific. Passed out some kudos to moi. Okay. Maybe it's in response to me saying nice things about him the last couple of weeks. That's possible.
I think there's a bromance brewing.
A bromance, as my daughter calls it. My daughter absolutely says that the two of us have a bromance. And I don't think that's right. No, that's not what she calls it. What does she call it? What's the word she uses? We're frenemies. We're frenemies working on a bromance is what she says. Frenemies working on a bromance. There's a million things we wouldn't agree on, but I've said it 1,000 times before. I'd love to have a beer with the mayor and sit down and chat with him and find out what he's, really all about. There's just certain things that we will never, ever agree on. But, man, I want a cup full of his coffee. Whatever it is that he's drinking. Let me set the table here. Jackson County says no. Jackson County's executive says no. The voters said no. They didn't say no. They said hell no. It was 60-40. It was beat down. No. The state of Missouri has said no. The governor's saying yes, and so is the Speaker of the House, who's from Kansas City. They passed something through the House, sent it to the Senate. Not only do they say no, they say hell no. We're not doing this. Guess what? We're leaving early. We're supposed to work until Friday at 6, but we're done. It's Wednesday. Whoop. Our session's over. We don't care about the Royals in Clay County. We are out. So now they talk about a special session, which they cannot really do before the June 30th deadline of the Star Bonds in Kansas. And they're going to have a special session. This would be relatively unprecedented. You're going to have a special session to spend Missouri tax dollars on something that most of the state of Missouri does not want. Incredibly unpopular around the state of Missouri. It's the same problem Kansas has. Now, if they're saying we're going to put ourselves in the same spot, and maybe what we don't know, maybe the headline here is the Royals and Chiefs have said, we're extending, we're not doing anything this summer. Keep going, Missouri. Keep going, Kansas. Let's see what you have. Missouri will have to do a special session. Kansas would have to extend the star bonds past June 30th. This will be wildly unpopular for every politician that gets involved. They can't win here. The politicians can't win. The voters do not want to spend money on these teams. They don't. Almost nowhere do they want to do it. Now, in Kansas, with the star bond that's up right now, there is no spending money unless you buy a ticket or merchandise at the game or a beer. It's a sales tax. The only way it costs you anything is if you go there. So that's not really the setup in Missouri. They're looking at a Clay County tax. If the Royals go north of the river, maybe a city tax. They're looking at something from the state of Missouri that would get hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't understand how often every single entity can say no in Missouri. And now they need a special session, which will be wildly unpopular. And Mayor Q is on the radio with Pete Mundo saying, it's Kansas City, Missouri. It's Kansas City, Missouri. It's Kansas City, Missouri. The Royals are going to Clay County, and the Chiefs are going to renovate Arrowhead Stadium. And he basically announced that today. There was no maybe this is going to happen or if the chips fall right. He just threw down just like he did in his live stream over the weekend when he was asked by a constituent on the live stream, are the Royals and Chiefs leaving? And before the question was read, he's like, no, they're not leaving. We've got this. He went on to say he's been talking with John Sherman. They've had these high-level talks, these great talks. This is done. Don't worry about it. I'm going to Qatar. I'm going to the same air base that Trump's at. I'm going to speak with troops over there from Kansas and Missouri. I've got this trip I'm going to be taking. Don't worry about what's going on here. We got these teams locked up. It's done. And yet nobody thinks that way. A Clay County commissioner, Jason Withington, says he's not known of a meeting or a call in over a year from anybody with the Royals and anybody in Clay County. Anybody at any level in over a year. And the mayor's saying, sounds like it's a done deal. It's either that or Washington Square Park. It's a done deal. Now, I'm not doubting in any way, shape, or form that it's Washington Square Park or Clay County. I'm not. Because I can't tell you where I have no intel on any sites in Kansas for the Royals. The only one I can think of is if they're brewing something up with the Chiefs where they would both be at the Legends and somehow work together. But that's the last thing these teams want to do is stay together. They simply are uninterested in that. They've been doing it for 50 years, and they're interested in doing it. But I've never covered a story like this. When we've renovated the stadiums before, it was very straightforward. It's like I think they each put in like $250 million or something. We needed $400 million, $500 million to renovate the stadiums 15 years ago. I argued at that point in time the Royals were making a grave mistake. They needed to build a stadium downtown. They should have done that. They should have done it near the crossroads where the Kansas City Star was. Our downtown would be totally different today if the Royals had done that. But they screwed us all over. That was David Glass and his people. Don't hold it to John Sherman. They blew it. The renovation of Kauffman Stadium was a massive mistake for everyone in the city and Jackson County and everyone. They shouldn't be going through this right now. But David Glass was cheap, and this was his quick fix. To his credit, they did win a World Series in that stadium after he did it. So maybe it all worked out okay for all of us because that's what sports fans want. But it should have been done. The Arrowhead renovation, in my opinion, much better than the Kauffman renovation. It served its purpose well. And maybe Arrowhead going forward is still a facility that can function and generate revenue and be exactly what Clark Hunt wants it to be. I don't know for sure, but maybe. And yet we told you the story earlier this week of the NFL dumping their DEI initiative at their annual meetings this month after Roger Goodell met with Donald Trump. And how did Goodell get access and what did they talk about? All Goodell wants is new stadiums and revenue in the NFL. This is important. He was with Trump. Revenue from D.C. for the draft. They'll make tons of money. Trump's all in. You know, it's D.C. There'll be Fed money everywhere. Move the Commanders back to the old site, District of Columbia, federal money all over the place. Goodell's no dummy. Then they drop their DEI thing for at least a year till it all works out. So do you think Roger Goodell wants the Chiefs to fix Arrowhead or build a new stadium at the Legends? I know what Goodell wants. Furthermore, I know what the other 31 owners want. They want a new stadium. They love the revenue from it. They love all of it. It's great for the league. It's great for branding the league. And maybe Clark is stuck on Arrowhead and thinks it's Lambeau. Maybe he does. Even the Chicago Bears in their historic old stadium are saying this isn't where we want to be going forward. We need a new stadium elsewhere. We renovated this one, but this is not where we want to be. They need a new stadium. So I continue to believe that it would be best for Kansas City, all of us, if the Royals were in Clay County and the Chiefs were at the Legends. That's just my personal opinion. That's not a prediction. I'm not reporting you any news, but I've never covered a story like this. We always, Sprint Center, we knew what it was. Mayor Kay Barnes, I went on these caravan things with her. We knocked on doors together and tried to explain to people, this rental car tax is not your money. When was the last time you rented a car in Kansas City? And people are like, well, I haven't. Exactly right. It's an airport rental car tax. It's people from out of town that come here, rent a car, and pay off Sprint Center. It's been a smashing success. These types of financing work, and I hate taxes. But if we can tax people out of town, great. Now, if Mayor Q wants to say he wants to slap $5 landing tax on everyone that takes off and lands from KCI, I'm all in. Yes, it's going to raise our ticket prices. Do you want to fly or not? But mostly it's going to be people that don't live here. There's going to be tons of that. Phoenix has done that. Can you imagine if we put a tax on takeoffs and landings? But maybe that's what Kansas City, Missouri will kick in. I don't know what they have in mind. We haven't heard it. But I've never seen anything like this where we don't have any idea where they're going or what they're doing. They say they're getting ready to announce this summer what they're doing. They're telling us their intentions very soon. And nobody in the entire state of Missouri sees anything on the table anywhere except Mayor Q, who's telling us all public to take a seat, hold my beer. We got this. The Royals and Chiefs are both staying. He just continues to say it. I want what he's having. I got to have that in my life. I mean this. I want that optimism. I want that hubris. I want those massive stones to just go out there and say, I'm Mayor Q. I got this. Your teams aren't going anywhere. They ain't going to Kansas. We got this. I know, and I'm the only one that knows. The governor doesn't know. The county executive doesn't know. The people in Clay County don't know. Nobody knows, but I'm Mayor Q, and I know. That's what I heard him say today. If he's right, man, I'll kiss his ring if he's right on all of this and has been steadfast on this from the very beginning. Really, really strong. Strangest story I've ever covered. Ever in Kansas City. Totally bizarre. 913-408-7957. That's 913-408-7957. If you'd like to join the conversation, we'd love to speak with you next on Uncanceled. This is KCMO Talk Radio. I mean, I guess there's some guys in the listening audience that were told no by a girl when they were a young man, maybe 7, 8 times. Nope, don't want to go on a date. Nope, can't go to the movie. Nope, don't want to go to lunch. Nope. And then eventually said yes, and maybe you lived happily ever after. Those stories are pretty rare. Guys get kicked in the teeth a couple of times. They usually move on. But not Kansas City. Not with these sports teams. They're just going to keep going no matter what. We got no help from the state, no help from this county, no help from that county. We got no site. We got no plan. We're 3 years in, but I'm marrying that girl. There is no doubt about it. We are walking down the aisle. I've already bought the ring. We are marrying that girl. Steven's in Kansas City joining us this morning. Hi, Steven. You're on KCMO.
Oh, Kevin, you and I have been around a long time, man. This is pretty crazy. I love the fact that the mayor is very optimistic, and the fact still remains that the Chiefs have all the cards and all the leverage. I still think they're in a bidding war, and they don't have to do anything. They can sit there for another 5 or 6 years, and the legislature can keep coming up with star bonds, keep coming up with $1 billion. Missouri's offering chicken feed. I'm sorry. Missouri is offering nothing. They might as well not even come back to special session because I don't think they want it. I don't think they want what they're offering. Now, the Royals have put themselves on a time limitation. Now, they're going where they're going, and they have to deal with their constraints. I think they got spooked by the stadium concrete cancer, and I think they'll end up somewhere good. But the Chiefs, here's the question I was going to ask you: Are the Chiefs trying to cast themselves out of this evil empire thing now that the ESPN series is going to be this fall? Because the one about the Patriots dynasty was not all that spectacular in terms of public relations. So I'm kind of interested to hear your take of whether the Chiefs will have a PR type documentary on ESPN?
Yes.
Or will this be? Will they lean in?
I am 100% confident it will be nothing but a PR documentary.
Or will they lean into the evil empire?
Well, so much of the film and stuff. Thank you for the call, Stephen. So much of this is going to be from NFL films and things that have been shot at Arrowhead that the Chiefs are sharing their own video. ESPN has not had total access to the Chiefs through this dynasty. The Chiefs in the NFL will be the ones controlling what they give to ESPN for this documentary. It will be a love fest. I can guarantee you that. Will there be some tense moments? A couple of behind-the-scenes arguments? Yeah, probably, but they're not. This is not Aaron Hernandez and the New England Patriots. We're not going to be talking about some murder scandal and all these other things. No, that's definitely not going to be the case. This will be a feel-good documentary on the Chiefs. I can promise you that. Look, the only thing I can think of that we're really not factoring in here is, will Kansas do the right thing? And the right thing by Kansas is they look the Chiefs and the Royals in the eye and say, we're not blinking. You have until June 30th or we're done. It's over. There will be no extension. This is a 70% offer. You know what it is. You take it now or it's never. And by the way, if the Star Bonds are sunsetting, and that's what the people of Kansas want, and that's what the legislature wants, that's what everybody in Topeka wants, if they want the Star Bonds to go away in Kansas, if that's what everybody wants, they have a duty to the voters and the people of the state of Kansas to look these teams in the eye and say, what's today, the 15th? You have 6 weeks. You have 6 weeks, yes or no. There will be no continuance. There will be no special session. We're not bringing this up again, and we're not dragging this out. You have leases expiring. We've offered you the best deal that any owner of any team has ever had. 70% of your stadium free. And we don't care if you spend $5 billion. It's still 70%. $2 billion, we got $1.4 billion for you. It's there. It's a legitimate offer. It is the law of the land in the state of Kansas. It is easy to get done. And if you're Kansas, they should be looking them in the eye honestly and saying, there's no other option. This is it. We're out after this. Then you get to go back to your cronies in Jackson County and Clay County and the Missouri legislature, which is throwing a fit, and go get your 20, 25, 30% of whatever your plans are. You could put more Band-Aids on Arrowhead, but don't come back to us in 15 years and ask us for a Star Bond. We're not going to have Star Bonds. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and that's what Kansas needs to be positioning right now. They need to, because it is feeling like Missouri believes this is going to drag and drag and drag, and if Kansas extends this, they're dead. If Kansas extends this, they're now you just got kicked to the curb. You're now she's not only telling you no, she's not going on a date with you, she's dating someone else. That's it. All right, so this one's pretty close to home. Elon Musk has his thumb on Panasonic in DeSoto, Kansas. Get this thing open and get me some batteries for my cars, because the Chinese-made batteries aren't going to work for Tesla. Even if we ship them over here and assemble them here, we're not going to qualify for everything that Donald Trump is going to be offering up for tax incentives, tax rebates, and qualification for American-made. So he's got to have these batteries made in America by Panasonic, which is a Japanese country. Now, this is interesting. Since Trump took office, here's what's happened on the battery front. Honda just announced it is scrapping an $11 billion battery investment in Canada. Toyota canceled a similar plan in Canada earlier this year. Nissan has abandoned its plans for a battery plant in Japan. This Panasonic plant will ramp up and create an opportunity for Tesla to have 60% more batteries made and qualify for all the exemptions that Donald Trump is looking for. This Panasonic plant in DeSoto just became a big deal, and it sounds like car companies may be bidding for these batteries to put them in their cars. Now, Tesla is obviously the one that uses the most batteries. These other companies, I don't think Toyota is known for their EVs. There's really only one company anybody think. When you think EV, it's Tesla. It's not that other companies don't make EVs. There's some excellent ones out there, and they advertise the living daylights out of them. But they've got problems, too, because a lot of those batteries are not made here. They're made elsewhere, and they will not qualify for the things that Trump wants, and that is an American-made car with enough parts made in America. And for an EV, what's more important than a battery made here? There's been a lot of talk about Apple and their $500 billion investment. Trump doesn't want these iPhones assembled in India. They've shifted production from China to India over tariffs already. And Trump says, I want them made here. Apple will counter with, all the chips are being made in America now. They're being made in Arizona. So if they assemble them here, the engine of the iPhone, the chip, the most important component, is made in America. You can make a really strong argument that you've checked your boxes, because if you're worried about Chinese interference, Chinese tracking, Chinese spying, those chips aren't made in China anymore. They'll be made in Phoenix. And they're going to go in your iPhone, which could be assembled here, or those chips could be sent elsewhere and assembled somewhere else. But I think Trump wants all this in the U.S. These companies are really scrambling. But this is pretty interesting because we kind of thought the DeSoto thing was a bad thing for Kansas, for taxpayers, that it was a bit of a boondoggle. I've driven out there and driven through that place. It's massive, and it's a creepy place. It's the old Sunflower ammunition plant. If you saw the, what was the World War II movie that was out just a couple of years ago? Oppenheimer. If you saw Oppenheimer, where they developed the bomb in New Mexico, they literally built a little town. They did the same thing out there in DeSoto. If you drive through it, you will see where the old barracks were. That was an ammunition plant. There was a little town with little houses that were built for the families that were staying there, of the people that were working there. It was very secretive. It was at that time not even part of Kansas City. They're like, this is out in the country. This is the 1940s, 30s and 40s. They're making ammunition there. And it's creepy driving through there. But that's where this plant is, and it's massive. And it turns out apparently it's going to be very, very important. And the richest man, the richest single man in the world, has got his thumb on Panasonic to get that thing open, get it running, and get me some American batteries in these Teslas, which is kind of cool. It's nice to hear that. Trump, as I mentioned, has been in Qatar, and he's talking up America, America, America. He's well over $2.5 trillion on this trip so far. He went to the air base in Qatar and announced to the troops that service members will be getting a, quote, substantial pay raise in 2026. Got a roaring applause for that. Mayor Q's coming next. So after Trump leaves, Mayor Q's there next. He gets to go speak to the same troops. Hey, listen, Trump went to this base and announced that Qatar is giving us $10 billion toward improvements and operation of the base. Again, if you're the president of the United States and you can go on these trips and talk these people up and be their friends and be their business partner, and all of a sudden you have $10 billion for your air base in Qatar, you're doing your job as the chief executive. This is what America hired him to do. Go make deals, go make good deals on our behalf. And he's doing them all over the place. But he also announced to the troops at the air base that there's going to be an Iron Dome that will be made entirely in America. All the munitions, all the technology, everything that we have for our own Golden Dome, I think is what he wants to call it, over the U.S., which will be a Star Wars. Reagan used to talk about Star Wars missile defense system. He wants to build it, super high tech. He's working with Elon Musk and their people, and it's going to be 100% made in America. And, of course, the troops loved hearing that. One other thing Trump said that is of note that won't get a lot of headlines is he's changed his mind on the Sovereign Wealth Fund. A Sovereign Wealth Fund is a government entity that takes excess, like Kansas and Missouri have had, not deficits, they've got surpluses. And a lot of really smart government entities will take the surplus that they don't know what to do with. Pete was talking about the Shawnee Mission School District the other day, right? And they will invest it into a wealth fund. That's how the Saudi royal family has $1.4 trillion. There is no deficit in Saudi Arabia. They don't borrow money. They pay cash for everything, and they have money left at the end of the day, and all of it goes into their wealth fund. That wealth fund is what owns Live Golf, for example. They can do all kinds of fun things with it and start up companies and do whatever. Trump has initially announced, the money that he's going to save with Doge, they're going to split. Like half's going to go to the deficit, half is going to start toward a sovereign wealth fund. I saw some sensibility in that. He has now changed his mind after going to the Middle East. He has looked around, he has talked to these leaders in these countries and said, these folks have no debt. Saudi Arabia, zero debt. Qatar, zero debt. UAE, zero debt. Doesn't exist. They have sovereign wealth funds, and the sovereign wealth fund is designed to keep them their own sovereign nation and protect them in case of what? A war. Because what's the first thing you do when you're at war with somebody? You try to cut them off financially. Well, guess what? If the royal family in Saudi Arabia has $1.4 trillion laying around in their wealth fund right now, and they owe no debt, they're in pretty good shape to remain Saudi Arabia. We had a party in our country that was trying to tear America down and change it into something that it is not and was never designed to be. Part of that is the deficit. Part of it is illegal immigration. We know what it is the Dems do to try to tear this thing down. And Trump is right here. He made the announcement in Qatar. Anything we save now or make, any surplus that we have, is going toward the deficit. It's not going to go to a sovereign wealth fund until we pay off the deficit. Now, I haven't seen anything even close to Trump paying off the deficit. He spent plenty his first time as president. He wants to build the military. He wants to build this Golden Dome. He wants to do all these different things. I don't know how he's going to pay for all this stuff and reduce the deficit. But he is a man that's most of the times when he said, I'm going to do something, he does it. He finds a way. And if you can get on your airplane for a few days and come home with maybe $3 trillion, that's a good start. We owe $35 trillion, somewhere in that ballpark. $34 trillion is what we're in debt. We had a surplus in April. It's not often we have a surplus in April. It was $268 billion, I believe, in April, which is a big number. But that's also the month that everybody's paying their taxes. So I don't know whether that's a real number or just an April number. I don't know. They can't cut enough out of the budget for me. They can't. And they can't tariff these other countries enough for me. I'm all for it. Let's level the playing field and watch what happens. Because if Saudi Arabia and Qatar and United Arab Emirates don't have deficits and have huge sovereign wealth funds, why don't we? Why is it that we can't have that? So we appreciate him going and getting this money and coming home with it. That's a pretty cool deal. All right, there's another story out there that is really creepy. You guys remember the airplane crash on January 29th? The American Airlines regional jet from Wichita to D.C., and the military chopper crashed into it and 67 people died. The FAA had a Pentagon-maintained hotline to Reagan Airport. I guess about anything, mostly national emergencies, whatever. This is how bad the state of affairs were in D.C. It was learned yesterday on Capitol Hill at some testimony and some hearings, and the FAA was unaware of this, that the FAA Pentagon maintained hotline between the two and Reagan Airport had been down since March of 22. Almost 3 years. Their communication line was cut off, and apparently nobody thought twice of it or did anything about it. That is all on the Biden administration. Pete Buttigieg, transportation secretary, whatever. How this was happening is just crazy to me. I got an email from one of my podcast listeners who is a former Black Hawk captain in the Marine Corps. He's in the reserves now. His name is withheld. And we were talking about the woman that was flying the plane, that her trainer actually had a lower rank than her. And he emailed me, and I'll read this from his email. Regarding the rank disparity, and that the superior officer was the student in this case, is not that rare in our military. On the contrary, it's quite common. In the Army, warrant officers are the subject matter experts. These officers, such as first lieutenants, captains, majors, do not fly as much. They're more focused on administrative duties. He didn't want to go into great detail of how things work in the Army because he was in the Marines. Then he writes, regarding what was going on at the time of that mishap, again, I'm not surprised as to what happened. Being 75 feet off altitude is like being 5 miles an hour off in your car. It's easily done and can only take moments to be 75 feet off while flying. This was a training scenario at night at a major airport. The pilots would be trying to teach and learn while listening to multiple radios, all with limited visibility. It's easy to get distracted and miss things in the heat of the moment. What occurred is what we refer to as a Swiss cheese model. All the holes lined up for something bad to happen. While air traffic control could have and should have been more directive, technically by telling them to see and avoid other traffic, their pilots' legal responsibility were shifted to the aircraft. I know it sounds crazy to not see an airliner, but with everything else going on inside the cockpit, there likely are airliners landing every 30 seconds at multiple runways. It's not hard to imagine that being missed. Wow. That's shocking to hear from somebody with such expertise, and for him to say that it's not unusual to have a higher rank than the person that's training you. You don't really think of those terms, but that's very interesting. Now we have learned that the FAA was unaware that the line between the Pentagon and Reagan Airport had been disconnected and unusable for almost 3 years, and nobody noticed. Did it cause the crash? No. That's not the thing that did it. The point that you learn when things like this happen is how status quo everything became. Hundreds of these flights, well, they've been close, but it's not going to happen. They've missed by a quarter of a mile before. We've had this. It's not going to happen until it did. And then you go, oops, we've been doing this wrong for a long, long time, and that's what they're finding out at Reagan National. Uncanceled continues. Up next, a very interesting statement from Dayton Moore to one of the all-time Royals greats, Eric Hosmer. And Missouri football is on a Christian ministry trip. You got to hear this story next on Uncanceled. Chiefs schedule is out. It's fun. It looks hard early and softer late. That's pretty cool. They released it with a video that looked like the show Cash Cab with Ben Bailey. He was in there. And nobody's talking about Trent Green or Mitch Holtis or Trent McDuffie or the people that were in the car, the Chiefs cheerleaders. Everybody wants to know who the brunette is that won the tickets. Have you seen the video?
Yeah, I didn't look into that too much. Was she just a fan?
Well, I think the people sitting up front were fans that would win tickets, and they all won. At the end of the show, they gave at the end of the thing they gave them tickets, and they're like, "Who's that guy's girlfriend?" That's like the takeaway from the Chiefs schedule. Other places, it got a little rougher. In Indianapolis, they released their schedule with a Minecraft video. I don't know Minecraft. They make this cartoon. They're releasing the schedule. It was out for an hour. And they pulled it because one of the scenes where they were showing that they're playing the Dolphins was a Coast Guard boat picking up an animated Tyreek Hill that was swimming like a dolphin in the ocean and arresting him.
Come on, don't pull that. Stick with it.
They pulled it. The Chargers win again. They mocked the Chiefs' Super Bowl loss. They had an eagle fly over and basically kill the Chiefs players that were looking like they look like Legos. What is Minecraft?
Yeah, it's like a kid's game. A movie just came out about it with Jack Black, actually.
Okay.
I haven't seen it. But.
They show Dolphins coach, everybody's picking on the Dolphins, Mike McDaniel jumping off a ship into the ocean, and then they show him getting fired. So a lot of interesting things there. All right, Mark, I forget the name, it's a Digging Deep podcast with Eric Hosmer and Mike Moustakas. Mm-hmm. Hosmer, of course, longtime Royal. They won the World Series in 2015. They have Dayton Moore on, and they're previewing their next episode. And Dayton Moore is sitting there. We hope Dayton Moore runs for Congress, District 3 in Kansas. That's my hope. He may run for governor. He's thinking about running for office. I hope he goes for Congress because I think he could win this district back. I don't know about governor. That's going to be a crowded field. We'll see. Anyway, Dayton does this podcast. And I don't know what the question was because the whole episode is not out. It's just teasing it. And he says, 2013, I'm sitting in a Starbucks in Houston. General manager of the Astros calls me and says, I'll make this short and sweet. Jose Altuve for Eric Hosmer. And Hosmer goes, oh, my God, you're kidding. Hosmer's sitting right there. He goes, you're kidding me. This is before the Royals got good. They were not good in 13.
Yeah.
Right? And he's like, oh, you got to make that trade. And he goes, nope. And Dayton Moore does a throat slash. He goes, nope, no way I was making that trade. Well, Altuve's a star, and Hosmer's like, oh, dude, you blew that trade. It was the best trade that never happened. They've both had great runs, right? The Royals and Astros?
And I understand why Dayton didn't do it because all those guys came up together. That would have blown up the team chemistry. So
true
I understand why Dayton didn't do it. Although looking back, Altuve is great.
Altuve's great. He's had a much better career than Hosmer, but Altuve's the smallest guy in the big leagues. I'm sure that was a factor as well. He's probably thinking, oh, this guy won't be that great. He's way too small for this. The Missouri football team is going on a Christian ministry. There's a great ministry that Daniel Hanks, who I've gotten to know very well, he's a sponsor on my podcast. He has a landscape company called Earth Effects Outdoor here in Kansas City, but his real passion is the Christian ministry, and he's the United States Operations Director for OneByOneJamaica.com. Now, I know what you're going to think. Christian ministry in Jamaica sounds like a vacation. It's not. It started in the late 80s after a hurricane in a very poor jungle-like area where there really aren't even roads to get up there. It was just like craggly old dirt roads, very poor people living off the land in the worst parts of Jamaica. And that's when this Christian ministry started. And he has made dozens of trips there. I think he said he's made over 100 trips to these folks in this village. They do great, great work. It's OneByOneToJamaica.com. Daniel Hanks, and he's got the Missouri football team going with him.
That's awesome.
They're doing it right now. They're doing it this week. Eli Drinkwitz, coaching staff, players, there's like 60 of them going there, and he said it's going to change their lives. Their butts are going to get kicked for a week. They're not going to believe the cots that they sleep on and the things that they have to do to help these people. It will be an eye-opening experience. And he's my podcast interview guest today. So if you want to hear this, you can go to kkasissues.com and hear the interview. But he talked about the Missouri football team and said, in the NIL era where we all look at these athletes, how spoiled they are, this will be the best thing for them to go do this work.
And that sounds like some place where, you got to get those guys with the big muscles to help move stuff and help build stuff. And that seems like it'll be a great fit. Clearing
debris, building houses, doing all kinds of stuff, working with schools. It's just a wonderful thing. I can't say enough good things about Daniel Hanks. Maybe a lot of you folks know him. He's been in business for quite a while in the Kansas City area. But this is who he and his family, this is what they are. I know he's got a great business, a great landscape business, but really what they are is devout Christians trying to help others around the world. That is awesome. Go Mizzou on your trip to help those folks in Jamaica. Thanks for listening to Uncanceled. The Vince Show is coming right up.